In today's clip, I'm going to talk about a somewhat recent article about how one dude moved from California to Austin, Texas, and apparently had a bunch of reasons to regret the decision. Since my wifey and I did pretty much the same thing around the same time frame, I'm super curious whether I could empathize with any of his reasons for regrets. So let's find out. Hey. Hey, Zempak here. Another day, a day spent just goofing off on the internet. So if you're doing the same and somehow ended up here for one reason or another, congratulations. Do feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, as that's apparently like currency on the interwebs. Okay. So the article in question, I'll link in the description. Okay, so basically has some average-seeming Joe named Brett, who's made the move from the grand state of California to Austin, Texas, and then experienced what can only be described as a diarrhea of regrets. Okay, he couldn't even keep his list at 10 and had to go to 11. And because my wifey and I did the same move, we were definitely interested in the article, right? Not to mention, we've noticed the general sentiment of locals wishing less Californians would come this way, and we wanted to stay sensitive to that and see whether the Californians have any legitimate concerns on the reverse side, right? Caveat though, I believe the author of the article grew up in California, whereas both my wifey and I have only spent about less than a handful of years each in California, because we're all from other places. So perhaps that fact alone will help change our perspectives. Now, without much further ado, I'll quickly summarize each of his points and see if I agree and disagree, and give you a general sense of a tally at the end. Number 1, the weather. What a way to start. Okay, the dude complains about weather, about Austin having too much rain. He says it's comparable to Portland in terms of rainfall. What? I've lived in New Orleans, okay? I'm guessing this guy hasn't been to New Orleans, because, no, Austin does not get even more rain. Certainly not more than New Orleans, but even not more than New York City, okay? So really, this is just ridiculously not true, okay? When it does rain, it usually fizzles out, unlike, say, New Orleans, when rain can last for days and days, seeming like a whole week. Jesus, man, travel to more places, not just leftist hubs on the West Coast, okay? So, big fat no, disagree. Now, he does mention that the general weather is not as good as San Diego. Hey, you know what? I'd give him kind of like half a point there, because honestly, San Diego does have amazing weather, right? But that's just luck of geography, and obviously not an entire reason for anyone to move anywhere. Okay. Brett's point number 2, no public land. This is a complaint about the lack of mountains and parks to see, and he recounts a story about going to some local tourist attraction that was too crowded to get in after a long drive. Okay. I think I started off kind of neutral on this one. It seems like one of those things that only outdoorsy people care about. We are not those kind of people. To us, being outdoorsy just means sitting in our yard under the sun and relaxing. Okay, that's enough. I have zero interest in trying to drive for 6 hours round trip to see a rock. What? But locally, we also live next to a cute little park with lots of public tennis courts on it, right? So actually, that swings my opinion on this particular point also to a no, disagreed, right? Not sure where this guy lives, but I can easily have my own personal version of public land within a 5-minute walk of my house, okay? Point number 3, nowhere to go. This is related to how he feels about how most land is private in Texas versus, the availability of public land, right? He repeats there's no soaring mountains and such. Honestly, I get this sense that this is just a difference in opinion or interest. While I disagree that there's no public land, I won't belabor this point. I just give a neutral meh on this one, right? Not agreeing or disagreeing, because I don't have really that much interest in the outdoors, right? So if you do, maybe take this point to heart. Okay, point number 4. Dishonesty. Whoa. Wow, this came out of left field. The dude complains about the experiences that he had with his realtor and contractors in Austin that he, picked based on Yelp reviews. Holy good lord, I thought this dude is from San Diego. Is San Diego not a real city? Because I thought all real cities have, bad elements and grifters, and thus make their inhabitants cynical over time. Is that not true for San Diego? Is San Diego just some sort of warm paradise? Because anecdotal evidence doesn't mean anything. Our realtor was and is great. We've never had a single issue with any vendor we've hired here in the city of Austin, okay? So I'm thinking this dude Brett must be a moron or completely not adjusted to actually living in a city. Not to mention, did he really make a generalization about Californians, being honest? Are you kidding me? You know that we'll generally think of Californians as people from LA, right? Land of the fakest nice people you've ever met. So to call that honest is an insult to the idea of honesty, right? Who knew Hollywood types are well regarded for their honesty? Yeah, so a strong no. Disagree completely, okay? Point number 5, Yelp. Yep, this Brett dude complained that Yelp reviews on food is not as accurate in Austin as it is in California. Oh my god, as a Chinese American who never ever trusts Yelp in any place, you know, based on food reviews, right? Because most Americans don't know anything about Chinese food. I can relate to this, actually. So, in my opinion, it's more like most Americans don't know what good food is, and therefore Yelp is not a reliable indicator for anything except straight up American food, right? For diners and burger joints, they're great. For everything else, all over the place, okay? The fact that Brett doesn't know that about Yelp simply reinforces me that his brain's missing a few screws, or he just hasn't been outside of his immediate comfort zone much. Yet another completely disagree. Is point number 6. Gets even better. Rudeness. Ooh, intriguing. So he complains about a few separate things, right? Quickly, I'll list them. 1, it's locals resenting newcomers. 2, Austin drivers are terrible. And 3, service at restaurants not fantastic. Okay, on 1, Texas is a huge state, and a red state at that. If you thought you were getting a welcome wagon, I'd have definitely called you delusional in the first order, okay? Other people don't live for you. Get over it. Number 2, Austin drivers are terrible? I'm from New York City. The only great drivers are New York City drivers, okay? Everywhere else that I've seen, everyone's driving is too timid, including Californian drivers. I would call Austin drivers similar to Californian drivers, but they're a little slower because they're driving bigger trucks rather than those ridiculous Priuses the Californian drivers prefer. And number 3, I also find nothing wrong with Austin's service level, right? Maybe it's because I've lived in much bigger cities and seen more parts of the world like Beijing or Paris. I'm starting to see a trend here. Brett just seems like a privileged, isolated dude who's drunk too much California Kool-Aid and probably really believes in that West Coast fake nice too, okay? So on this entire point, completely disagree. Maybe if you want people to just smile to your face and stab you in the back later, then you'd think Austinites are rude, but I don't. Point number 7, a conservative dystopia. Oh, this is a big topic, right? I'm just gonna pick and choose one point that he made that I thought was the most ridiculous. As an example of conservatism, he mentions there's almost no school choice, like charter schools and private schools like California does. My question is, why does California need a ton of school choice, you know, before college, right? Outside of public schools at all? Actually, that's a rhetorical question because I used to live there, so I can tell you why. The answer is that California as a state can't manage its own public school systems with any level of competency. So complaining how a different state would dare to do it differently is, again, a height of privilege. Totally disagree. Point number 8 Brett makes. Monoculture. Whoa! Okay, here the dude complains about a lack of diversity in terms of ethnicities. Somehow this is the city of Austin's fault. I'd argue this dude just picked a bland suburb to live in. Also, spoilers for someone who complains about a lack of diversity in ethnicity. This dude actually ended up moving back to California, to the Bay Area. Literally the place where only tech people can afford to live in these days. So irony? Hypocrisy, anybody? Total BS. Disagree. Point number 4, punitive military school and sports. Honestly, I don't know whether I should comment on this because, comment on how this dude chooses to raise his kids. As you know, I don't have any kids. We don't have any kids, okay? But from the sound of it, I definitely wouldn't want any of my hypothetical children to be schooled with his, as his complaints were about schools being too harsh on students having to follow rules. Oh, I forgot. Some liberals somehow think being touchy-feely will produce high-functioning adults instead of people who just needs more and more years of therapy. Oh wait, anyway, I disagree still, just on principle, because I think discipline is a fantastic trait that should be drilled in children from an early age. Yep, don't have kids and still disagree with this dude, who I can only term, a moron the more I read into this article, okay? Point number 10, cedar allergy. Okay, so every place has unique kind of plants and that kind of stuff. I would say most people who are contemplating a big move across coasts should, generally do some research and be prepared before moving there to see whether they can stand this type of thing, right? Actually, I find this point to be neutral generally, right? Anywhere you move to that's far away will have a different type of climate and flora and fauna, so new allergies has to be assumed to simply be true. Finally, his bonus point, okay? I love this bonus point. Big luxury home obsession. Brett thinks Austinites spend so much time indoors because the weather is so atrocious that everyone here lives in castle-esque houses. This point also relates to a whole separate section earlier in this article, as you would have seen, where he complains about Austin, how Austin's not cheap in terms of housing costs, energy costs, because he has a 4,000 square foot house in an affluent burb. Wait, what? The dude thought he could live like a king in Austin for pennies? And it turned out not to be true, and then complains how everyone around him lives in castles? Holy crikey. I mean, I'm just going to go back to delusional again. Okay, I just realized that Brett wastes another paragraph complaining about how he couldn't easily spend 2 months summering, escaping the Austin summer to a presumable beach house or vacation home. Oh my god, seriously, I think he's the only one that cares about having the biggest house, and yet treats his Austin move as if he went to the Philippines or something in terms of cost. You didn't know that heating a giant mansion that's 1.5 times larger than even the larger average 2021 new builds would cost more money? Bigger house equals more heating or cooling costs? Is that not simple logic? And he says, he writes that he moved into a admitted affluent burb, and then surprised that your neighbors are a bunch of non-diverse bland drones who only care about their McMansions? Oh my god. That's like going to McDonald's and then complaining how there's no healthy options on the menu, okay? You made your choice. Okay? Honestly, reading Brett's reasons of how he regrets moving to Austin has taught me one main thing, and that's I didn't know how fast I could lose respect for an internet stranger at this type of pace. Now, I may disagree with the vast majority of his points, but I hope any other Californian who does agree with Brett will stay in the bubble and help echo chamber each other to death. Okay, I am so happy, Brett, that you moved back to California, and to a worse part of the state, by the way, especially compared to San Diego, which I agree, the weather's nicer. But you moved to the Bay, where I have lived, and I know the weather's not even that good, okay? So, anyway, in conclusion, good luck to Brett, and good riddance, okay? You are exactly the type of Californians that I never, ever want to be near again. You presumptuous, privileged, ignorant hippie waste of space. Cheers.